This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we got for you today. Cavs win in what was an NBA possible championship preview with them and the Warriors. Latest from Dallas on Dez with Ian Fitzsimmons. Dez, Adrian, and more with Louis Riddick. And, of course, hashtag the dress.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Last time you were here, it was cold and you had trouble. I think it's time for a new door.
Yeah, I think
quite honestly.
Right.
Or some lifting. Maybe a gym membership might be in order as well. What a whole lot going on. And we're going to get to this because it was the hottest thing going on yesterday. Mm-hmm. The color of a dress. I've never seen something take over Twitter the way that did. And I'm sure that's what you'd expect on Mike and Mike starting off the morning. We won't start with it, but we're going to get to it because it was everywhere yesterday. I can't believe what I was doing with that dress, whether it's the color of the dress, while I'm watching what we were talking about the possibility of the NBA championship preview last night.
Yeah, I can't even believe the debate because to me I only see one color, but you're right. In terms of actual sports action last night, it was fun to see LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, and neither of the superstars disappointed, especially LBJ.
Back to LeBron, wing right, working on Green with his back to the bucket. Gives him that right shoulder. Rocks him a little bit, gets him off his position, and sends in a lefty from 10 feet straight away. LeBron James has 42, a season high. What a move that was.
Thanks to ESPN Radio for the call. That's LeBron James' 17th career 40-10-5 game. 11 boards, 5 assists. That's the most of any player in the last 30 seasons as the Cavaliers beat the Warriors 110-99 was the final. LeBron also, Mike, is the first player with a 40-10-5 game against the team with the best record at the All-Star break since Hakeem Olajuwon in 1995. And sometimes maybe we make too much of one game, but it's fun to do because you say it's a potential NBA Finals preview. And in this case, LeBron was incredible. And I think it goes back to the whole conversation of MVP's been, Steph Curry or James Harden or Russell Westbrook making a push. And we'll talk about Westbrook momentarily. But LeBron's the best player in the world, and he showed that again last night.
He is the best player. And, how many times did we see Jordan not win the MVP when he was winning MVPs? Because, you know what? You've won too many MVPs, so we're going to go another direction. And this year it seemed legitimate because it seemed that Steph Curry's and many still think James Harden is going to be the MVP. Anthony Davis' name was in that for a while, obviously, but that's kind of slowed. He's been out with an injury. And then LeBron James. And a lot of it we know has to do with end up where you end up. And that was the talk of Russell Westbrook, which, again, we'll get to in a little bit, of if that team can climb, where Steph Curry has his team and James Harden first and third in the conference. And then LeBron, I think the Cavs can get up to number 2. Mm-hmm. I think they can overtake your Toronto Raptors.
Have been struggling a little bit lately, defensive issues there.
Yeah, you have. So I think they can get to number 2, and he is the best player in the game. And it was interesting, before we get more into this game, Greeny yesterday talked a lot about how he thinks and feels the Atlanta Hawks are getting disrespected and watch out for them and he gave numbers, and they're excellent numbers. They're numbers of what they've done against the top Western Conference teams, that they've played well. And he said basically anybody that thinks they can't win the NBA title, these numbers kind of defy that. And I said, that's all well and good, but to get to play one of the teams in the West, you got to get out of the East. And right now, as I said, I don't think it's as much disrespect for the way Atlanta's playing because they're playing extremely well, but I really think when they're rolling, the best team is the Cavs, and because they're the best team, it makes you not talk about Atlanta as much, even though Atlanta is going to have the top seed in the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. They're going to have home court throughout, but the best team, I would find a hard time anybody debating that it's going to be the Cavaliers when they're playing like this. LeBron James came out last night and said, I'm going to take control of this game right away. And he got into the paint. He muscled his way in, and he scored 42 points. And he ran the show. And when they play like that, and the way that Kevin Love can play, and Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, hurt his shoulder in the third, came back in the fourth, but he didn't make the trip to Indiana, where they're going to play the Pacers. He's going to MRI on his shoulder. So certainly you keep an eye on that, but it didn't look like it was anything detrimental at all. But when LeBron's playing like that with the supporting cast that he has, I don't think it's disrespect to the Hawks. I think it's just, listen, we all thought before the season started, if this team got through their chemistry issues of a new team, LeBron, Kevin Love with who was there, and then to add some more on top of that.
Yes.
You know, with Mozgov and
Shumpert was a good move.
and J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
So that if this team ever got it all together, they were going to be that best team in the East. Kick out Derrick Rose with the injury. And again, I don't think it's disrespect to Atlanta. I would find a hard time especially after last night, but we're always a what have you done for me lately kind of society, that anybody thinks Atlanta would beat the Cavs in a 7-game series.
Yeah, Danny Ferry's in the running, obviously, for Executive of the Year, the job that Atlanta's done. I mean, we talked earlier with the fact they had 5 guys win Eastern Conference Player of the Month in January.
That was cool.
And how cool that was because of how democratic that system is. But you're right, with regards to what David Griffin has done with the Cavaliers, Shumpert's such a great on-the-ball perimeter defender. We saw examples of that against Steph Curry and Klay Thompson last night, the best backcourt in the game, and they were being harassed by the length and athleticism of those Cleveland guards. And as far as those other moves, Mozgov, clearly a rim protector, someone they needed, and he's been an upgrade, in fact, some would say, over Anderson Varejao, who's out. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today and find out if you could save. On the topic of LeBron James for MVP, well, he answered it this way.
I got to be the MVP for these guys, 14 guys in this locker room, and when I'm out on the floor, I try to do everything to help us win, offensively, defensively, whatever the case may be, and wherever I end up at the end of the season, that's where it's at.
This is where you see LeBron at his best, and what had been the book on him, make him shoot jumpers. That's the way you want to beat him, because if he may not be the greatest jump shooter in the world, so keep him out doing that. When he does what he did last night and attacks with his size, he's obviously a matchup nightmare, because he's one of the best, if not the best, passer in the game. So as soon as how many times he was backing down his defender low and everybody thought about coming over to help, but as soon as you take that one step too far, he's just going to dish to an open guy. So they're kind of going, kind of not. It's kind of the indecision, and he takes it into the paint and does his thing and scores. I mean, when he is playing that way, he's tough to match up against, just because of what he can do with the ball, whether it's shoot it, whether it's get fouled and end up at the line, or whether it's kick it to a wide-open somebody like a Kevin Love to knock down a three.
And that's where you're right. You talk about MVP LeBron James, and Mike and Mike's MVP Play of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips. Visit Sport Clips Haircuts for your MVP experience. Massaging shampoo, hot steam towel, great haircut, so relaxing. So LeBron James pushing himself into that MVP conversation because of how great he played last night. And you're right, overall for Cleveland right now, when you look at this conference, Atlanta you have to respect, but Washington slipped a little bit. Bradley Beal's absence, should have him back soon, but Beal's absence has hurt Washington. The Bulls without Derrick Rose, as you mentioned. The Raptors, some defensive issues and bad losses in that 3-game swing. So you're right. Right now, if you look at it as an observer and you try to forecast where you're going, you're thinking Atlanta and Cleveland feels like an Eastern Conference final. Yeah,
it just does. And the way LeBron and the Cavs are playing right now, it has the pool has shrunk, no doubt about it. So I do think you stick to those two teams and think, okay, will they end up 1 and 2? Atlanta's not moving from 1, and I do think the Cavs can jump up to 2. And I also think maybe you saw the reason right before the All-Star break in that area. You had analysts talk about Golden when you said, okay, which teams do you have the best thought of getting out of the West? We asked Charles Barkley at the Super Bowl, and he said Memphis and Dallas. Wow. And other analysts we've heard talk mentioned teams and not Golden State, saying, can a jump shooting team make it, win a championship? And that's a question. You get that incredible backcourt, 6 of 14 from three-point land. By the way, and I know everybody knows this, but when you see it and when he does things, it just reaffirms the handle that Steph Curry has is just unbelievable.
You look at his size and you think this guy shouldn't be in the league, much less shouldn't be one of the best players in the league.
At the NBA All-Star break in New York, when we were there and our show, we talked to Steph. And Greeny even admitted, he said, listen, when you came in the league, and Greeny said, I wasn't alone, there were many of us that thought, okay, he'll be maybe a good shooter.
Right, coming from Davidson, not a major school.
Maybe, but not a lot more than that. And then we saw the good shooting, and then we saw him add to his game.
Yeah, fearless.
Oh, my God, incredible to watch. But this then is the question. Between him and Klay Thompson, 10 of 30. My quick math says that's 30%.
Yeah, 33%.
Yeah, 33. See, my quick math was even wrong.
It was close enough. Here's what Steph Curry had to say about the whole MVP conversation.
Do you care about things like the MVP race, or are you just focused on the process and Well, I hope it's not based on this game. If I'm playing one-on-one against him and you just look at tonight, then I lost, obviously. But it's about the body of work. It's about what your team's doing. It's about just being consistent over the course of the season.
Yeah, and I'm at 30% plus or minus.
Yeah, it's always within
it's
three.
Always within.
That's a good point.
But you know, he said if it were obviously based on last night, but he's going to be in the hunt for that. But it does bring up the question, you know, if they're shooting, if they're 18 of 30 and not 10 of 30, and more of those are 3-pointers. You know, this was a game that got into double digits, and they never really got into that 1-2 possession area. You know, but if they're hitting more of their shots, especially a few more threes, maybe it is. But is that the difference? You know, that they have to be hitting their shots. It's a shooting team, and can a shooting team make it? And it seems to be there's a decent amount of former players and analysts out there that think a shooting team is going to struggle going through the rounds, making it to the finals.
I still like Golden State's chances to make the final, Mike. The reason why is they play great defense. And I think collectively they have a much stronger defense than we've seen in the past. We always knew they could shoot and score. So I'm not willing to punt on them nearly as quickly maybe as others. And one other aspect of it that I think is important, especially when it's a jump shooting team, is getting to the free throw line. And that's why Steve Kerr was upset. Huge disparity in free throws, 35-17 for Cleveland.
He lost his mind.
I mean, clearly he's a guy, you don't see him that animated normally. He's a pretty cool
But he did get his
yeah.
eighth technical.
Which was surprising.
You know what? I saw him going nuts, and I said, well, he's going to get teed. And he did get teed. And then they said, his eighth technical. I said, oh, my, I did not expect that at all.
Right. Mild-mannered, dapper guy, former analyst, former player. He knows how it is.
But you know, going back full circle before we move on, I like LeBron's answer about the MVP. Listen, he has enough of those, and he has championships, and he said, I need to be the MVP for this team. You know, we'll talk about the MVP race. Do these guys care? Listen, you're human beings. You're human beings. These are the top two teams since LeBron came back, efficiency-wise, 1 and 2.
Right.
And you have a guy who a lot of people think is going to be MVP in Steph Curry, and the guy who's the best player in the game in LeBron James. Of course there's going to be natural, you know, human competition that says, you know, you want to perform better, but, you know, are they thinking of MVP while they're out there? I doubt that.
I completely disagree with that. That's definitely something that's more a fixation of the media and all the fans watching it. The dress was blowing up Twitter. We'll get to that. Suns and Thunder. Russell Westbrook had 39 points, Mike, and he scored 31 after halftime, 14 rebounds, 11 assists, first player with a 20-point triple-double in consecutive games since LeBron James in March of 2009. And it's fascinating what's happened here because, you know, Westbrook was out and Durant had to take over. Durant's out, now Westbrook takes over. And Brad Daugherty does a great job now as one of our NBA analysts, did NASCAR previously with my friend Cassie Hubbard, the rest of the crew on Coast to Coast. He said earlier in the week that he thinks Westbrook could be the best player in the league. And it was like, well, hang on a second, maybe the MVP this year. He's like, no, I'm telling you, what this guy does and his skill set and his ability and the fact he can take over a game, he has to be in that conversation. At the very least, right now he's top 3 in the MVP.
Would you agree the deepest position in the league?
Oh, yeah. The point guards today are ridiculous.
Especially out in the West. It's just, it's incredible what he's done putting that team on his shoulders. Now, you know, we talk about a team like with Derrick Rose getting hurt, Chicago falling off the wayside there. That 3-team race that they had to get into the playoffs. I think OKC's going to move up, but the Suns traded away everybody. I still loved it on trade day when they were getting on the team bus and you saw them all one at a time, 4 of them get off as they got traded. Get off, turn in your gear.
That's one more.
You're gone.
Right.
And then, you know, you had the injury to Davis for New Orleans, so he's out for a week or two. So that kind of opened the door for Oklahoma City because Phoenix trades away everybody. The best player in New Orleans gets hurt. Now, of course, the best player in Kevin Durant, it would seem best player, gets hurt. But you have a guy like Russell Westbrook to take over, and that's why, you know, how far can they move up? Are they still within, 4 or 5 games of Portland to try and catch for that top spot in the division? So he's been incredible. And Greeny and I talked yesterday that as far as MVP is concerned, if they do move up, how far they move up in the standings could have an impact because, again, Steph Curry's with the top team and Harden's with the third team in the conference. So how far can they move up? But I know people look at that, but holy smokes. I mean, what he is doing is just incredible.
And in terms of individual electrifying performances, it calls to mind Michael Jordan. Westbrook, 5th straight game, 20 points, 10 assists, 5 boards, the first player with that long of a streak since his Airness did it 12 straight games from 1988 to 89. So Westbrook right now getting plenty of pub alongside James Harden, Steph Curry, now LeBron James in a very crowded MVP race.
The one thing everybody does is the fact that he took 38 shots.
Right. He's going to take a high-volume shooter.
He took 38 field goals attempts, missed 26 of them. His 31% field goal was the worst by anyone in the 30-10-10 game over the last 25 seasons. So with the good, comes the bad a little bit. The real bad there, obviously, is they lost that game.
Yeah.
To a Phoenix team that basically, as we said, just kind of disbanded right before the trade deadline. But they had been on such a roll, and you wondered how long can you sustain that. And the pace that Russell Westbrook is going at right now, just really incredible. Played, 42 minutes last night? So, I mean, he's playing a lot, scoring a lot, doing everything for that team. And, at some point, before the playoffs, he's probably going to need to take a breath.
Yeah, there's no question about that. After a while, it'll start to eat up on you. I don't care how young you are, how fresh your legs are, you're right. The NBA season can be a grind. And the Thunder are looking beyond themselves being a spoiler. I mean, they want to get in. If they're a 7 or an 8 seed, right now they're jockeying with the Spurs and the Clippers, but they feel like they can give Golden State or Memphis or whoever that top team is a pretty good ride.
And I know the Spurs don't look like they did last year, but again, once you get into the postseason, they're still the Spurs. Can they be healthy? That's obviously a key note with them because every time we want to sit there and count out San Antonio, there they are. So, boy, you want to talk about the difference of seed in the East when you start getting down lower to the West, where one of those teams, if they were to move up and beat a higher seed, you wouldn't be a surprise.
No doubt about that. Adnan Virk alongside Golic here on Mike and Mike. And now we get to the topic that everybody was talking about on Twitter last night.
Unreal.
Almost broke Twitter. The dress. Take it away.
This was unbelievable what went on yesterday, and I'm doing all this while watching the Cavs and the Warriors play, maybe even a little bit before that. My wife this is all over Twitter, and I didn't even know it.
Right.
And then my wife Chris says, "What color is this dress?" and
she wasn't wearing a dress.
No, she wasn't wearing a dress. It was on Twitter, and if any of you haven't seen this or been part of this yet, we're putting the picture up, and I looked at the dress, and here's the amazing thing. I looked at it, and I said, that dress is white and gold.
And when you asked me this morning, that's exactly what I see as well.
And so, and my wife says, "Are you kidding me? It's black and blue." And I said, "What do you mean it's black and blue?"
That's insane. I see zero black, maybe some blue, but not much.
I see clear as day white and gold. But gang, I'm not kidding you. This was trending all last night. This was everywhere last night. Myself, my son Jake, and his girlfriend Jenny all saw white and gold.
Yeah.
My wife Chris and my son Mike both saw black and blue. We're texting everybody we know, and we're getting a split answer.
Pretty crazy Thursday night for the Golics.
I really, literally, we're sitting there going, "Are we really doing this?" But then you go on Twitter, and it explodes between llamas running in Phoenix, which we'll get to.
Can't wait to get to the llamas.
And this dress on what color it is. It was stunning. Now, luckily, it's something you can kind of mess around with while still watching what you were watching.
Right.
But I cannot believe, and they're trying to say the explanation. They said whoever did this, I don't even know where it started.
Yeah, where did this originate from?
That the dress
Who's confounding America?
Exactly. That the dress is white and gold, but those that see black and blue has something to do with your emotions at the time.
So this is a mood ring.
It's a mood dress.
Oh,
I mean, anybody old enough to remember the mood ring that changed, you put it on and changed colors with your emotion. It was mocked, but was popular. Whoever invented that had to make some coin, but was thinking, come on, a rock's not changing color with your emotions. But they were actually, that's why it became so big, because my wife and I mean, we're sitting there holding and looking at the picture, and I'm definitely saying white and gold, and she's saying black and blue. I'm like, how can we be so different?
Right.
And people are saying that it has something to do with your emotions.
If you see black and blue, maybe you're a dark person, you've got some issues going on.
They say there might be a bigger thing going on, and your emotions are shook up a little bit.
Yeah.
White and gold.
You're upbeat, you're
white
sunny,
and gold,
optimistic.
you know what you are?
Yeah.
Normal.
Yeah, thank you.
Because the dress is white and gold. But the percentage, I don't know where the percentage.
75% white and gold. So the majority are like you and me.
It just was stunning that this took over the Twitter world last night. What is going on with our country that took over Twitter last night? So much so that we had to bring it up today.
Oh, if you're not watching ESPN2, we're going to tweet it out at the Mike and Mike account, so you will not miss anything.
I would love to hear what people think. You know, I mean, for most it's black and blue or white and gold. You get every now and then. I think Mo saw some.
He said red and brown.
I think he saw baby blue or something ridiculous. Yeah, I have no idea.
He's insane.
But those seem to be the two different. It's stunning to me. It's not like, yeah, it's white and gold. No. It's off-white and yellow.
No.
It's like white and gold. No, it's black and blue.
There's no separating those two.
We're sticking to the 8-box Crayola here. You know, no shades, just, black and blue or white and gold.
And then some of the staff was saying the more you look at it, it starts to change color after.
My daughter, Sydney, God love her, she said, it's white and gold. And then she looked at it about 10 minutes later and she said, now it looks black and blue to me. I said, you're out of the conversation.
Yeah,
I said, wait, we can't.
This is like those tests they give you, right? Like those IQ tests. You said, what do you see here? And the different
It really
things.
is. It was freaking us out. So I'd love to hear what everybody thinks that they think the color is.
Yeah, as always, you can tweet us, ESPN, Golic, Adnan, ESPN, or Mike and Mike. And once again, we'll tweet up that picture in case you're listening on ESPN Radio, and you can, as you're driving, get in an accident because you got to see the picture.
Tweeting a sports show about the color of a dress.
Hashtag the dress.
That's how we roll here.
Mike and Mike.
I would not want to be a part of this if I was in the Golic family. Look at that dumb look on his face.
The anniversary show, March 6th. The best of Mike and Mike.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Mike and Mike.
Great to have you with us. Lots to talk about with regards in the world of sports. Not only LeBron James, but Russell Westbrook's having great nights. LeBron and the Cavs on the winning end. Westbrook and the Thunder on the losing end against the Suns. Also some baseball conversation momentarily about Josh Hamilton unfortunately suffering a relapse. And also this whole Twitter conversation about the dress. But first, Mike, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, there was a passing of Father Ted Hesburgh, former president at Notre Dame from 1952 to 1987, and as you try and explain what Father Hesburgh meant, not forget just to Notre Dame, but to really the country. And at one point, he was considered one of the most 25 influential people in the world.
Wow!
And what he has done, the library at Notre Dame is named after him. He had his office on the 13th. By the way, he was 97 years old.
Wow!
Had his office on the 13th floor. Always went to it. Chris says, my wife, to this day, says the best Mother's Day gift she got was when the kids, and our kids were all there for one semester together, Mike, Jake, and Sydney, the year in 2012, when they went up to Father Ted's office and got a cross blessed by him for her. Students would go up all the time, I mean, he was there for everybody, would go in for blessings all the time and talk to him. And we went up there as a family one time a couple of years ago, and in one of the other rooms of his office, I mean, the museum that he could have, that probably at some point will be on display, of what he did from a guy that was on the cover of Time magazine at 62 years old, a guy that traveled so much on presidential and papal business that the joke was, what's the difference between God and Father Hesburgh? It was God is everywhere and Father Hesburgh is everywhere but Notre Dame, because he was always on the road for the president or for the Pope. Dwight Eisenhower named Father Hesburgh to the U.S. Civil Rights Commission in 1957. He was at with Reverend Martin Luther King at a rally in Soldier Field when the landmark civil rights bill was on the cusp of enactment. I mean, he was just lauded by everyone and looked at as leaders of obviously the Catholic community with the Pope and then the United States with the president, of how he was looked at and what he was asked to do to help both those areas, and just the man was just absolutely revered. I mean, absolutely revered, and it's a sad day, certainly, but 97 years old is what an incredible life he's had. And what I would say, I guess, is what we say nowadays. If you don't know that much about him, is the old Google him, and you will see that a president of a university, but I mean, so much more.
Extraordinary.
And what he meant, in this country and around the world, a man who really had a fingerprint on what was going on in society through the time that he was the president of Notre Dame. Really incredible. A man that, again, you could just go up to the 13th floor and get a blessing from him, say hello, just sit and chat with him. Just really, really an incredible man. Certainly a name that will be synonymous with Notre Dame forever, and a man who will be missed, and so much more you'll see from his life, from pictures and places that he has been. It's really, you're just going to go, wow. I mean, what an incredible life that man had. So that man had. So rest in peace, Father Hesper. You certainly will be missed, and so many people's lives you have touched with things you've done working with the president and the Pope and so many different things.
Wonderfully expressed by you, and thoughts and prayers with his family, certainly in this time of need. Adnan Virk, alongside Golic here on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Josh Hamilton is someone who has struggled with personal abuse. He's struggled with cocaine and alcohol abuse, and he found God, and credits the fact that it's his faith and his belief in religion that has been able to kind of push him through those dark days and got him back in the league. Won an MVP with the Texas Rangers, but unfortunately has now suffered another relapse. This time cocaine is the issue for Hamilton, and this is it's an interesting issue because on the one hand you obviously cheer and pray for the guy himself, and you hope that he overcomes these issues, but he is a professional athlete, he is part of a business, and if it is come to light that he's transgressed against what the limits are in place, then the league may suspend him. And Keith Law, speaking about that issue, our Baseball Tonight insider, talking on his podcast with Buster Olney, I should say. Here's what Keith had to say about that whole issue, whether or not Hamilton could be suspended and how that impacts the Angels moving forward.
From a baseball perspective, or I should say a baseball business perspective, if he's suspended, it's a good thing. They get quite a bit of money back. The flip side is suspension is going to do Josh Hamilton absolutely zero good. He is an addict, and addiction is really a medical issue, and suspending him isn't going to push him any closer to, I guess, a return to sobriety. I don't know what it's supposed to accomplish. Suspension for performance-enhancing drugs, it's clear what they're trying to accomplish. It's a deterrent factor, but you don't deter an addict.
Keith Lowther speaking about that, and it's a challenging issue for
I mean, I get what he's saying, but the other side of it is you don't have a punishment for that. I understand him being suspended is not going to cure him. Now, listen, we are now in an area that I have never been part of. We've talked about the Josh Gordons, and we've talked about many, and I don't mean the PEDs, but drug addictions.
Right.
Josh Gordon doesn't think he has an addiction. Chris Carter, who has, been on our show so many times, went through an addiction, and, there are those that have gone through it that thinks, does Josh Gordon have one? But he hasn't realized it yet. Josh Hamilton absolutely, admittedly, has an addiction and has relapsed at times and has relapsed again. So what Keith Law is saying, listen, I get there are some, though, like right away, Chris Carter about Josh Gordon said, cut him. The reality check may wake him up. Now, I don't personally know that. I've never been involved in anything like that. So what does a suspension do? Is it going to cure you? I doubt it. But on the other side of that, I'm not sure if what Keith's point was on the other side of that.
Right.
You have to have a penalty for that. You can't just say, oh, well, he's relapsed. We'll just wait till, he says he's okay,
figure it out for
and then we'll put him back on the field.
Right.
You can't do that. Now, he's got to go find and get help again. And these Major League Sports, they do offer that, and there is assistance for that, and it's something Josh has gone through before, and hopefully with the help of his family, he'll have to go through it again and take care of what he has to take care of, because that's what we're talking about here, and we continue to talk about. It's your life. There's a sports side of it that we'll talk about. Certainly they have to fill that role and what they're going to do money-wise and all those different situations, but it is about somebody's life. But it is something that is tough for me to comment about, that addiction can have that much control over somebody the way it does. I've never seen that in my family, or certainly been part of that personally that it can have such control over such a promising career where it was. Certainly it's not that anymore as he gets older and goes through some of the injuries, but that it can have such a hold on you. And even when you're got help and feel you're going in the right direction, as you understand, you're never cured. You're always an addict. It's just the day-to-day fight, and that at times you can relapse and fall back. So obviously everybody is going to have their thoughts for him to help himself as a person before an athlete. That's got to be the afterthought, and hopefully he gets the help that he needs again to try and get him through this. But
he didn't play professional baseball from July 2002 to July 2006. 4 years he was dealing with all these issues, and one of the conditions of his reinstatement in 06 was that he undergo drug testing 3 times a week. So he had alcohol relapses in 2009 and 2012. They did make back-to-back trips to the World Series with the Rangers in that time, won the American League MVP in 2010, signed a 5-year, $125 million deal with the Angels prior to the 2013 season, has not played very well so far in 2 years with the Angels. And here's what Tim Kirchin had to say about whether or not Texas was onto something by letting him go.
Maybe he's going to have to say, I can't play anymore, and I got to go get this taken care of full-time instead of just part-time. And again, it reminds me of what the Ranger people told me. Wherever he goes, he better have a good support system, because we have a great support system here for him. He should not leave the Rangers because of what we have set up for him away from the field, and maybe we just saw that.
And that's one of the issues now for Josh Hamilton. You're right. If you're an addict, again, I don't have that issue, and fortunately in my family we haven't had any problems with regards to cocaine and alcohol addictions. But just seeing it from the outside, it's a vicious grip it has on someone.
Yeah.
And you're right. You got to worry about the person first. We'll get to baseball after that. We'll figure that out. But he's a dad, he's a husband, and hopefully he can try to get through this. It's just sad to see that, because we all know how much he struggled, and I think he's been courageous about being upfront about it.
He
right?
has been
a lot of
upfront
addicts,
about it,
I'm sure, struggle on a personal level. Josh has put himself out there and trying to make himself a poster boy for it.
Everybody deals with it differently, and some, when you have the spotlight like that, will use it and try and use it to help others if you can.
Exactly.
But it's something that you said it before. It's got a hold of you, it has a grip on you, and hopefully he can beat it again. From what it's, as we both had mentioned, we haven't been involved in this, but as we understand, it's obviously a lifelong battle. That you're one slip away from being back in it, and I know it seems for him when he's had the injuries that it's now happened a couple times, it seems, when he's been rehabbing an injury. And has
been a little dark and depression and frustrated, and you're right, coming off a bad season, it all kind of
adds into it, and you end up in this situation. So
sympathetic to him, though. Hopefully,
definitely sympathetic to him from the sports side. He's going to be gone for a while. It's just a matter of how long he's going to be gone for, and
that's the right decision too.
It is the right decision. I mean, we got to worry about your life here, and I know there are those that say taking him out of his element isn't going to help him. Again, it's very tough for me to speak to that. I don't know. I understand. I can see both sides. Keeping him in his element,
both sides in this
maybe can keep him on the straight and narrow, but maybe getting away from it, for those that say he needs to get away from it, just needs to focus on the problem that he has. I understand that. I don't know what the right answer is, and maybe for different people it's a different answer. But I do know you have to have policies in place where if you're doing this, that there have to be suspensions.
There's a reason for that.
Absolutely has to be. So that should be the least of his worries right now is playing sports and to get his life, because as you mentioned, when you have a family involved in this, I mean that's what and I'm sure he knows, and I'm not telling him something he doesn't know. That's what you're fighting for. That's why it just amazes me the hold that it can have on you, and what addiction actually really can mean with its grip when you have what it would seem to be, again, we're only on the outside looking in, a great life, all the money you could ever want, a star in a public sport, a family to love. I mean, it seems like you're like, my God, this guy has everything. How can that happen? I mean, well, that's that's the grip of this and what it can cause. So you hope he can get the help again that he needs and can get himself back on the right path.
We'll talk more about Josh Hamilton and other baseball issues later in the hours ahead. Momentarily, we're going to talk to Dave McMenamin, our ESPN NBA reporter, all about the Cavaliers after that impressive performance from them last night. Let's talk a little NBA conversation right now. As the Cleveland Cavaliers, the nice victory of the Golden State Warriors last night. Let's bring in our friend Dave McMenamin, who covers the NBA via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Dave covers specifically the Cavaliers right now. We'll get to the NBA in just a second, but Dave, I know you were all over the Oscars. You were hyped up for Grand Budapest Hotel. How thrilled were you to see them win Best Costume Design?
Oh, that was my highlight of my night, obviously. I know your film Birdman took it home. I was happy with the actors who won. I feel like for the most part, actually all of the best actors and supporting actors and actresses, I was cool with. So that's a big part of it. Now, best picture, best director, maybe we'll have a debate about that offline later.
Yeah, 3 of 4 of the acting categories I completely agree with. Completely disagreed with Best Actor. Should have been Keaton for Birdman.
You guys are like slashies.
Yeah. No,
sports guys and entertainment
That's
guys.
right. We're going to E! News one day.
Yeah, exactly.
McMenamin and Virk. As far as to our day job right now, I know you're heading to the airport. Cavs are in Indy tonight to face the Pacers. Houston Sunday on ABC and ESPN Radio. But you hear this often, Dave, about statement games and that performance against the Warriors. I love this Golden State team, and I really hope they go deep in the playoffs. But last night, we saw how effective the Cavaliers' perimeter defense was in neutralizing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Made the Splash Brothers go 10 for 30 from the perimeter. And the important part, 10 for 30 overall, but a lot of the shots from the perimeter. The important part about that defense, though, is you're talking about Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith, 2 guys that the Cavs got for virtually nothing, for peanuts from Phil Jackson and the Knicks. And those were the 2 guys charged with the defensive assignment throughout the game. And both those guys, particularly J.R. Smith, known for being scorers, but the way they transformed themselves was downright Eddie Redmayne-esque, I would say, turning themselves into defensive players all game long. And J.R. Smith only makes 1 shot last night. He gets 4 steals. He has 5 assists. He was just as impactful as just about any other Cav on the court, and that included LeBron James, who had an MVP-type night.
We know winning is that deodorant that kind of covers everything. But underneath that, we've talked about the issues with Cleveland. Was David Blatt in over his head, having never been an NBA head coach? Was Kevin Love being used properly, and was he going to be happy the way he's being used there? And what would he think at the end of the season? So on the surface, it looks great with all the winning that's going on. But underneath, are there still some internal issues?
Yeah, you know why I don't think so, Golic, is because as they've won, they've only bought into their belief that the way they were winning is the right way. So it's not like this dissension behind the winning that maybe sometimes you do see. A guy like Kevin Love is fully embracing his ability to affect the game when he's not even touching the ball. As I mentioned, a guy like J.R. Smith out there looking to make the extra pass, make the extra play. David Blatt, I think, has been emboldened as the season has gone on because he's seen his players practicing what he's preaching in his huddles and in his practices and his shoot-arounds and his film sessions. So I think this is a very healthy way of winning right now, and I don't think there's too many cracks underneath the surface. Right now, the Cavs believe they're the best team in the league, and they're playing like it.
Talking with Dave McMenamin right now, does an excellent job covering all things NBA. Specifically this year, he's focusing in on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dave, I want to ask you about David Griffin and the fact that I mentioned earlier, I think Danny Ferry should be the executive of the year of the job that he's done with Atlanta and what a strong team they have. However, Ferry did obviously take some heat for the remarks that he made, the racial remarks, and that's why he's been away from the team a little bit. So maybe Griffin gets in this conversation because not only the J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert, but also making the move for Mozgov, and clearly those moves, you often hear that about how an executive or a team needs to make a move. This time he did them, and clearly they paid dividends.
It was the timing of the moves, Adnan. When he pulled them off, he didn't wait until the trade deadline like a lot of the league did, and we saw a record number of players being dealt that day. About 5 weeks beforehand, he pulled the trigger on 2 major moves and was, again, basically able to fleece the Knicks for 2 very effective players, become 2 of the 8-man rotation in Shumpert and J.R. Smith. And Timofey Mozgov, at the time, there was some criticism being levied upon Griffin for, sacrificing 2 first-round picks for Mozgov. But for Griffin, at the time when I spoke to him, it was about what do you want to accumulate assets for? You want to accumulate them to acquire something that you need. And to him, it was the means to an end, giving away 2 first-round picks to get Timofey Markov, who, isn't the type of player, the type of talent you would think would warrant such a ransom. But clearly, it was the right player at the right time. And certainly Griffin, when things are said and done, when we're talking about the depth executives of the year, his name's going to be in all those conversations.
So certainly this team, Dave, intact. It looks like the best, if not the best, one of the best teams in the NBA. Kyrie Irving in third quarter hurts his shoulder, comes back in the game in the fourth. Team leaves to play the Pacers after the game. He doesn't make the trip, going to have that MRI. Where are we with his shoulder?
Yeah, we'll find out, the results of the MRI sometime this afternoon. He's doubtful for the Indiana Pacers game. If he's clear, he could board a plane on his own, come to Indianapolis to play tonight. I don't really think that will be the case. I think there's a couple signs in his favor of perhaps it not being a major injury, that he did come back into the game and finish the game. And also after the game, when he spoke to reporters, his arm wasn't in a sling or anything like that. And he did speak to reporters. It wasn't like he was going for immediate medical attention, which would maybe make you believe that it wasn't a situation maybe like a Kobe Bryant shoulder where there was a tear, and they knew that right away. So I think there's a little bit of bated breath in Cleveland right now, considering they're coming off the biggest win of the season, and that's their weakest position in terms of backup. Outside of Kyrie Irving, they basically have Matthew Dellavedova to play point guard, Iman Shumpert, who played point guard at college at Georgia Tech, and then, of course, LeBron James is capable of being a point forward. But that's someone who they certainly cannot lose for the long run. They probably have enough talent to make up for it if Kyrie has to miss a little bit of time in the interim. But if they have any hopes of a title, they need Kyrie Irving healthy.
Great stuff, as always, from Dave McManaman, who I know is hustling to the airport. Cavs and Indy tonight to face the Pacers. Houston Sunday on ABC and ESPN Radio. Good job, as always, my friend. Appreciate it. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
Nice matchup. Last night you have LeBron against Steph Curry, and now Sunday you'll have LeBron against James Harden. So, the MVP candidates all battling head-to-head.
I agree. Nice. It's a fun time right now. Also, we were talking just quickly about this dress, which everyone was trending last night on Twitter, and the votes that are coming in that preliminary. Now, Mike and I both think it's white and gold. Blue and black is leading 63%. Sean tweeting us white and gold on Twitter, black and blue on ESPN2. Derek saying bronze and white maybe. Trey saying it was blue and black. This morning it's gold and white. And Worthy also saying, I see white and gold. Sunset black and blue. Saw on the news this morning that's actually royal blue.
Here's the interesting thing, guys, because I'm sure there are some people who are just shaking their head, quite honestly, us included, that we're even talking about this. But between this and the llamas running free in Phoenix, which we'll talk about at some point, this is kind of social media today. This was trending, so it's like, what are you guys talking about? You know what we're talking about? What everybody of the 550 million users of Twitter, this was trending, so that's what, to use our term, that's what everybody's talking about.
Right.
And I know a lot of people say, well, it's the way it's different pictures of it look different colors. No, I mean, my wife and I literally had our phone and we're looking at the exact same picture, and I clearly saw white and gold, and she clearly saw black and blue. So it's not the shading of this picture or that picture. We were looking at the exact same picture.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
4 most interesting things we saw on Twitter. As always, get a hold of us, 800flowers.com Twitter feed. Bubba, help us out. A little bit of music for us, please. Go ahead.
The first one, the llama drama. 2 llamas running through Sun City in Arizona. It made national news. It was unbelievable. Like this dress thing, these llamas running. I think it was watched as much as the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase.
Bronco versus llamas. What were you more
running in traffic, stopping traffic, people getting out to try and corral them, leading to tweets from the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals have agreed to 1-year deals with the llamas on the loose. Each will get 2,300 pounds of hay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, gotta love how well he avoids the defense. The Sacramento Kings, hey sons, control your llamas. I mean, this was everywhere like the dress was everywhere, watching these llamas just kind of roaming the streets.
The ivory-hued llama fended for itself against its assailants for another 15 minutes before it was finally lassoed by an onlooker who was riding on the bed of a pickup truck alongside the animal. Thankfully, no one hurt during the escapade.
That was great. That was fantastic.
Rather bizarre story there.
We know one of the popular games out there is Angry Birds,
Yeah,
but that's a game where no one's getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
How about real life Angry Birds? There is an aggressive owl that has residents of a Dutch town cowering in fear. It's a European eagle owl has attacked up to 20 people over the past few weeks. So much so that in the area where it is, people are told to go outside with umbrellas no matter the weather to try and fend off this European eagle owl. They are saying it looks like it's like having a brick laced with nails thrown at your head because you can't hear it coming, and it's got the razor sharp talons, and there's had to be some people stitched up. So there's people walking around. You're wondering, why are you walking around with an umbrella? Because there's an angry bird out there. For real.
Like the classic Hitchcock film, The Birds. It's finally come to life here. The owl may have been once held in captivity because its lack of fear around humans, not usually associated with the species. So watch out. Bring a hammer.
we talked Girl Scout cookies again. We brought this up.
You love Girl Scout cookies.
I love them.
Yeah,
Listen, our house is the prize house in our neighborhood.
Samoa's?
With Samoa's Thin Mints. And that's the story here. Was the story a couple of days ago when Thin Mints were back ordered because they're 25% of the 200 million boxes sold. It's a lot of Thin Mints. How about this? Remember the old Easy Bake Oven? And way back in the day.
Yep.
Now there's a new Girl Scouts cookie oven that's going to debut this fall. It's going to actually, and they're making Girl Scout cookie flavored cookie mixes that you can make in this, from chocolate peanut butter, coconut caramel, chocolate chip, sugar, oatmeal, and Thin Mints.
Yeah.
You can make Thin Mints at home. This is supposed to be a kid toy? Mm-hmm. I'm getting this.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is for all ages. This is that kind of fun.
Yeah, age, where it says ages, this is 6 and up. It truly is 6 and up.
That's great. Cookies for everybody.
52-year-old man's going to get this.
The last one's about Kanye West, your boy here.
Well, Kanye West, who I was actually pretty proud of myself at the Celebrity All-Star game.
You knew who he was?
No. Knew who he was. When Kevin Hart, on the losing team, was given the MVP, he had a good game, but I thought a Skylar Diggins deserved it on the winning team of our team. I actually said, this is a Kanye moment. I'm taking this
from you. There you go. Very good.
Taking his award. Mm-hmm. But Kanye West, who came up on stage and kind of faked out Beck when he won the Grammy for Best Album. He has ripped Bruno Mars in the past. He must have, had a conscience attack yesterday.
Yeah, finally
or
apologized.
Was it yesterday, or whenever it was. He apologized to both Beck and to Bruno Mars by tweets, saying, he basically blah, 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 didn't mean it. Who knows if he's serious about his apology or not, but he did come out and apologize. It could be because he's getting ripped everywhere in the world for what he did.
And speaking of that celebrity game, next year in Toronto, you got to hook me up. You're the coach. Can you get me out there?
I can.
Okay.
I can. You know what? I guarantee you right now, next year, NBA All-Star Game, you will be the towel boy.
Yeah, I'm in. I don't care. As long as I get the free ride to Toronto, I'm in. I will mop up duty with everybody else needs.
And bring the Tim Hortons.
Yes, that and Molson Canadian Labatt, I got you covered.
Mike and Mike.
Pleasure to be joined by Louis Riddick, our NFL front office insider. Haven't seen you since we were crushing some Chick-fil-A at Sarah Walsh's national championship party. That laugh tells you all I need to know. There's a lot of Chick-fil-A being had at that time. Did not see that Ohio State victory coming. But in terms of what, this Dallas Cowboys situation is interesting, Louis, because, and this is, I think, a perfect perspective for you, being in the front office, but being a former player as well. When you hear rumors and circumstance going out there, you start to wonder as a fan and broadcaster, what do they know that we don't know? But right now the party line is, allegedly there was no wrongdoing done by Des Bryant. Unless a video is released or evidence, you can't really judge on that. But if you are part of that Dallas front office, what are you doing in terms of your due diligence before you make a major decision as to whether or not to sign this guy or DeMarco Murray?
Well, sure, you're going through every possible avenue as far as trying to find out what exactly happened. Did anything happen? Is there any evidence of anything happening? You're leaving no stone unturned because this is a big, giant investment. Whether it's the franchise tag or a long-term commitment, look, it's $13 million. It's 13.2 in franchise money. Mm-hmm. Regardless, I mean, that's a lot of money. And this is a guy who's at the prime of his career who wants to be committed to, wants to trust you, wants to play his best for you, who has already said, look, I've given my all to you. And if you don't somehow bridge that gap between how he feels as though you're not really committing to him and how he's committed to you, and you just keep kind of playing this out, it's only going to end bad. It's going to deteriorate the relationship. And you just don't want to do that with the kid. At the same time, you're trying to do the best deal for the club. You're trying to protect the club. You're turning over every rock, Adnan. You're trying to make sure you find out as much as you can before you go ahead and dive in.
So let's assume what he is right now. There's nothing against him. You know, the police in that situation in the Walmart parking lot basically said, everybody go your own way. Yeah. So we'll base everything on that and say, now let's do the business decision. Des Bryant, DeMarco Murray. Is this what the franchise tag is for? Let's tag one so we can sign the other. So if in your opinion in this, do you tag Des? And if you do, what kind of a deal do you give DeMarco Murray, knowing he's 27, he touches the ball a lot, he's getting in the area of that 30, so how long of a deal do you think about giving him?
You know, I'm the one who's always said this at the running back position, especially with DeMarco, who has had a bunch of touches, 400 plus this past year, who has an injury history going back to Oklahoma. It's always about future performance projection with running back, more so than any. I mean, you see what's happening right now with running backs as they get up there in that 27, 28, 29-year-old range. Everyone has the same mentality, and it's really the right mentality, because that running back just takes a pounding. Would I want to commit long-term to DeMarco only at my price? And I don't know what that price is for them. Do I want to pay him $8 million a year? No, probably not. Do I want to give him $15, $16 million guaranteed? No, probably not. I've already said, if I had all the information, and I don't have all the information, but based on what I know and based on what Des Bryant's supposed maturation process has been like, that's the guy who I'm trying to commit to. That's the guy who I'm really trying to work on to see if I can get comfortable and he's still comfortable and get him locked up long term. That's the one. That's the part that's not very replaceable. And I don't want to call DeMarco Murray replaceable. But I think they built that team the right way also. They built it front to back, inside out. So now I'm going, look, I like DeMarco, but that O-line is special. I'm going to take my chances in trying to find a replacement for him if I can. If I can't strike a deal with him, more so than I'm taking my chances letting a guy like Des Bryant either go or not be happy. Because you know he's very mercurial. You know he's very emotional. And there's just something, if I have all the information I'm comfortable, I'm trying very hard to get him locked up.
You mentioned what's going on with running backs right now. Reggie Bush is available. D'Angelo Williams is available. Peyton Hillis is available. And Steven Jackson just got released from the Atlanta Falcons. So there are running backs up there in age a bit that are available out there.
ESPN NFL front office insider Louis Riddick joining us in studio with the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. The new Subway Simple 6 menu, 6 subs, 6 meals, $6 every day. Subway, eat fresh. As with regards to this Adrian Peterson situation, this is murky as well, because as loathsome and as vile as it is what he did to his son, he did serve his penalty and did miss the entire season. And then there's this disconnect that he feels like the union didn't do enough for him, and that Troy Vincent told him, hey, it'll be a couple games, I'll take care of this, and instead he misses the whole year. Now his agent's bitter with the Vikings and saying they didn't have his back and should have fought harder to get him back on the field. We've seen this court ruling now, which the NFL is going to challenge whether or not he's going to get reinstated, but how do you see this shaking out for a guy who, at his best, is one of the best running backs in the game?
Yeah, this is a very tricky situation, and some of the things that you just alluded to, let's not forget also now. Let's just go back a little bit. Let's remember this 4-year-old little boy here.
Yeah.
Okay? See, right now, this has all become just a football decision. Now it's just become about, well, do you go ahead and you pay him his $13 million in cash this year? Do you trade him? Do you cut him? He's the best running back in the National Football League. He'd have a big market out there and all this. They didn't do Adrian right. They didn't fight for him. Well, hold on for a minute. There's a reason why we're in this situation in the first place. 100%. So let's all keep a little bit perspective. Whether we're Adrian and we're the Vikings, everybody did a little bit wrong here. Really, the best thing, and someone put it to me this way the other day when I was really discussing this. Really what it's going to come down to is the Vikings and him are going to need to sit down in a room, Mike Zimmer and him, whoever it is in the front office that he needs to talk to, and say, look, maybe we could have handled this a little bit better. The fact of the matter is, though, look, you were up on some very serious allegations here and charges. We kind of know where this is going to head. We want you back here. We really have hold all the cards. We don't have to do anything. We can just sit here and say, hey, we'll see you when off-season program starts. And there's nothing you can do about it. But we want you to be happy. We want to show you that this is more than just business. This is personal. It is personal. It's always about relationships. You're not gonna just cut him and let a running back like that hit the market. You're just not going to do that. You're not going to trade him because, what team is really going to assume 14.75 in cash in 2016? What team's going to want to pay that for a running back that's about to touch 30? And you just don't know what's going to happen with him, even though he's a freak of nature now. But what team's going to assume that? So you're going to work it out. That's what I think. You're going to work it out.
Because we know you have to get to Sports Center. So on that, if you're running another team, and there are other teams that are close and could use a running back, how far do you go to if he becomes available to get a guy like that?
Again, Mike, that's one of those things where you're going to have to come up with a value in your mind as far as what is it that we're going to pay him now and in the future, and what is his future performance projection. Again, he's not like many other running backs. You're probably going to give him the benefit of the doubt if you're another team saying, maybe he's the guy who busts through that 30-year-old barrier and gives us maybe 2 or 3 more years past that. Maybe he is, because it is Adrian Peterson now. But it's one of those situations. It's going to be dicey. I don't think he's going to get the kind of money from any other team that he's scheduled to make from the Minnesota Vikings right now.
And to finish up, Combine just went on. Your thoughts, that whatever thoughts you had of Winston and Mariota before the Combine, you saw the Combine, the workouts, did anything change with your thoughts?
No. What Jameis did on the football field, throwing routes that day, exactly what you thought you would see. As far as how impressive he was in the interviews and how he owned up to some of the things that have gone wrong for him, everyone felt that I talked to was pretty comfortable. Marcus is the one who I think some people came in with the predetermined notion that this is a very quiet, reserved. You're going to have to pull his teeth in order to get him to talk. Yeah, everyone came out of the meetings that I heard was like, wow, he's not that quiet. Actually, as a matter of fact, he's a pretty dynamic leader in his own right. And when you put him on the football field, you saw how he was working from under center, simulated in those drills. It's very, very natural to him. I talked to Chip Kelly for a while before his workout. You don't want to put this kid in the box now. I'm just telling you, as a typical spread quarterback. Yeah. Okay, he's just not. Remember, Sam Bradford, when he came out, was more of a spread quarterback than really maybe even Marcus was. Alex Smith, the same way. RG3, the same way. This kid's offense, as the year went on, was more complicated, more pro-style, if you look at the national championship game, than Baylor ever ran anything with RG3. I look at it this way. After seeing that workout and hearing what people said about him, third down, which is where you have to win, red area, which is where you have to win, 2-minute situation, before the half, 2-minute situation at the end of the game, that kid's going to excel, and he's going to surprise people, and people are going to go, whoa, maybe we shouldn't put him in that box.
Look forward to that. Last one for you. What color's the dress?
Oh, it's blue and black, man.
Oh, really?
It's blue and black. Isn't the majority of people seeing it that way?
Yeah, they're with you right now.
But it's like a mood ring.
I know. Well, what is that? Is it like you said? Does that mean I'm dark?
Dark, yeah.
I guess so, man.
Louis Riddick has more issues than one would think. He's not the sunny, articulate, eloquent guy you see.
He looks so much happier.
I guess I'm dark.
ESPN's NFL for
But you're with me, Golic.
What's that?
Didn't you have the same views?
No,
Mike and I are happy enough.
All right, never mind, man. Whatever.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNRadio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.